Hey Guardians, it's Todd the Gator here, and as my mission with this channel is to help new and returning Guardians get back into Destiny 2, I have a real treat for you guys today. Let me ask you something. Have you tried to play Destiny 2 for the first time, or maybe returned back to the game and ran into some real, let's just say, stumbling blocks as to what to do next, where to go, where to start, and on and on? Getting into Destiny 2 can be very overwhelming and confusing, to say the least. And I've had many friends just give up, never to be seen in the Destiny universe ever again. And it's a real shame, because this game is so much fun and rewarding to play. So what I did is I interviewed two distinctly different Guardians on my podcast, Destiny Help Desk. I'll put that link right here above if you want to listen to those episodes in full. And I asked them several questions when it comes to the new player experience in Destiny 2. I first asked a professional streamer and Sherpa his views, and then I addressed the same questions to a Guardian who just got over the hurdles of the Destiny 2 new player experience. A big shout out to Danfinity and JontheBountyHunter for helping me out, and I'll put their respective Twitch links in the description down below. So what I'm going to do today is present to you the answers to the questions that many new and returning Guardians might ask, and we'll see together how they differ and which ones, or even both, you would want to follow. So let's roll. The first question I asked both of them was this: what is it about Destiny 2 that makes it such a special game to play and keeps us coming back? Here's what I found out.
I think part of it is number go up, brain chemistry go wow, and so like I think obviously it's designed as a treadmill to kind of keep you coming back. Sure. And to like there are some FOMO elements involved, as well as some encounters that feel very rewarding. And so on top of that, you have on story base, you have this world that's like, it's got medieval knights, it's got sci-fi, it's got like space bugs, you have elves, like you have everything kind of under one umbrella, and they've done a really good job of mixing it to be its own unique kind of homebrew. So plus the gun game's like some of the best in gaming.
It's been fantastic. I'm shocked that how much I adapted to the shooter platform that I previously hated, because Destiny has just a different kind of feel to it. Like I said, I had tried to play the re-released Doom from a few years back. Right. Hated it. I've even tried to play like that re-released Wolfenstein. Didn't care for it. I was like, shooters are not my thing. And when I started playing Destiny, it just sort of clicked. And the experience, the gunplay, worked for me on a level that no other shooter ever had. It's the secret sauce, man. The gun. Yeah, it is. It was really, really good, and I enjoyed it a lot.
The next question I asked was, what mistakes do you see new Guardians make when starting out, and what do you suggest they do instead?
I think people rush in a lot from what I've seen. Okay. Is people get excited, and especially when they're playing with a team for the first time. And I think people try to rush things when there is some merit to taking your time and pacing it and figuring out, okay, so this wave of ads comes in, there's a champion. Then there's another wave of ads, then there's another champion, but it's of this variety. Mm-hmm. Or like just kind of sitting down and methodically working out what comes in when, how to take that out. Find the pattern. Then moving on to the next list and just checking them off rather than running around and being like, everything's hitting me. Because like I think another thing, it's not necessarily a mistake. It's something that is not really told. It's not really told to you unless you're paying attention, is to pay attention to your resilience on your character, in your armor, especially when you're starting out. The closer you get to 100, the closer you get to a 30% damage resist from enemies. Yeah, it used to be 40. I mean, like it used to be much larger last year, but it's a 30% damage resist when you have that. And just kind of focus on getting resilience up to 100 first, and then start tinkering around with build stuff of like, I want to throw more grenades. Yeah, put it in for discipline. I want to punch things more. I love punching stuff. Strength. Just focus on resilience first.
I would say don't get too concerned early on about your gear. You obviously want the best gear, but I think the best thing that an early player can do is not chase stats, but chase levels, right? So you want to get your pinnacle rewards. And so then you want to just put on whatever the highest gear you have is. When I first started, I really wanted to know, well, what are all these stats? What are resilience? What are recovery? What are, discipline? What are all these things, and how do they affect my build? And there's nothing wrong with knowing those things, but when you're brand new, level climbing is all you really need to worry about. And I wouldn't spend any time worrying about that, or worrying about, do you have the best gear or the best weapons, or whatever. Just find the thing that you like to use, right? So I remember, and when Raza talk about this from time to time, when I was playing early on, one of the first exotic weapon that I ever got in the game was Cerebus +1. And I fell in love with that gun. And I kept it on constantly. And no matter what other weapons I had, even when I got better weapons, I was still running Cerebus +1 because I got attached to it, right? And it just felt right in my hand. So on the one hand, I would say run what feels good to you and don't worry too much about it. But on the other hand, don't fall in love with a particular piece of gear because it can actually hamper you as far as your build stuff's concerned. But that's for later. New light players, I would just suggest, if you're playing and that gun feels good in your hands and you're having success with it, just use it. Just go on.
I then asked them both, how does the new or returning Guardian avoid getting overwhelmed with the fire hose of information out there for the game? And what can they do to excel and enjoy the journey?
I would say try to focus on like a part of the game that you're wanting to get better at. If it's, say, like, set a goal for like, I want to do a master nightfall by the end of this week or something. Like, find a way to get to the power level. It'll probably take you a few weeks to do that. Mm-hmm. But really just kind of like set a goal and then like bite off the hunks of what it takes to get to that goal. There's a lot of flashing lights. There's a lot of stroby things that can really pull your attention. But I think that if you're going to eat the frog anyway, so just like eat it in pieces, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a thing that I use. Usually when a new season comes around, there's like a pinnacle climb, mm-hmm. and I focus on that. And there's a tool that I use called DestinyRecipes.com.
Great site.
Yes, especially when you're pushing for power, it has like a power level progress tool.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That tells you where you need to focus, like what pieces of your gear are at a certain light level, at your target level, or under, or drastically over. And then underneath, it will tell you relevant challenges that can help push your light higher and higher. Another thing that like new lights can do coming in, there are a bunch of third-party tools that are super helpful in the Destiny community. Like, I have looked at other gaming communities to see what tools are out there, mm-hmm. and bar none, it feels like Destiny 2 has not only some of the best third-party devs in our community, but they're able to make tools due to Bungie's API that are just life changers.
I always wondered that, Dan, because I'm like, wow, there's so many great sites to help people make things easier, quality of life, in the game. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered if Call of Duty had something like that, or mm-hmm. or even Diablo. Sorry, I say that to annoy people.
So as a longtime gamer, there's this urge in you to do everything right, and you're never going to in Destiny. You're going to, whether you fail missions or whether you just didn't know certain things existed. I mean, I'll routinely find out, well, I didn't even know that was there, whatever it was, like a secret chest or someplace. You're going to miss things. And so you can't take yourself too seriously in the game. I think when you're first starting out, I think you just have to find something you enjoy doing, right? So for me, early on, it was bounties. And so that's part of the reason where the name comes from. Mm-hmm. I found out that I could do bounties relatively easy. Gunsmith bounties, they're not hard. You just go to Europa or go someplace and just shoot bad guys. And you'll eventually get so many hand cannon kills or so many scout rifle kills or whatever. And there's a sense of accomplishment for that. And so when you have a sense of accomplishment and you've enjoyed yourself, you feel good. And so just find something you like to. If you find Gambit to be entertaining, go run Gambit. You'll run the heck out of it. Run it in the ground if you want to. If you're enjoying yourself. What you should not do is you should not try to run content that either you're not ready for or that you don't understand in some kind of weird, I need to do this mentality. I had some kind of idea when I first started out that what do I need to be doing? I need to be, doing X number of bounties a week, but in addition to that, I need to be doing some kind of story content. And in addition to that, I need to be doing the seasonal challenges. And in addition to that, I need to be trying to get my titles. And so when you can easily overwhelm yourself, mm-hmm. Don't do that to yourself. Just find something that you enjoy. It would have been so easy for me to at any point go, you know what, this is too much trouble, and just turn it off. And so the only thing that kept me coming back was I had a really good friend that played it. And so the idea that me and him could play together was good. Mm-hmm. And two, I felt challenged and I wanted to see how good I could get at the game. So that meant that I just I would get mad. I would get angry. There were things I would try to run. I remember the first time I tried to run an exotic quest by myself. It was the Seraph one on the ship, Revision Zero. And I had run through the mission in a fire team. I knew the mission, but I'm relatively new. I've only got one character. I've only got a warlock. And I said, in order to get all the achievements, I've got to run this solo if I wanted the Seraph pin. And that's the other thing I really enjoy doing. On a side note, I really enjoy buying those stupid pins. Bungie's got me hooked and I hate him for it. But anyway.
The title pins?
Yeah, I buy every one I earn. I said, I really want to get this title. This is the only thing. And so I spent a couple days banging my head against the wall trying to solo that mission. Now, to my benefit, I actually finally did do it. But I really beat myself up over it. And it made me feel bad that like other players could go through it relatively easy. And I couldn't. And it made me feel like is there something wrong with me? Am I not as good as those guys? Am I not as good a gamer? Do I not have the same hand-eye coordination or reflexes? What is it? At the end of the day, it was mostly just I had really lousy weapons and armor. And so I wasn't at a level where I needed to be to complete that. I did finally get it done. And when you do that, there's a great sense of accomplishment but I go back and I look at it now and I go, was it worth the pain? I think I might have been better off just having fun, just finding a fun activity and doing it. And I think because whatever you're doing in the game, you're constantly getting better. You're constantly getting better. You're constantly earning glimmer. You're constantly earning shards. That'll eventually turn into more equipment, more weapons. You eventually are going to earn an ascendant shard from some activity. You're eventually going to be able to buy an exotic that you didn't have. You're eventually going to, you're going to get there is the point. Mm-hmm. Now, you may have missed out on some of the best weapons from past seasons that you weren't here for. That's as people talk about running Divinity all the time. I don't have a Divinity. I don't have access to it. And I just don't have it. I've got a bunch of other really cool weapons though, and so I got plenty I can use. So don't fret too much over it. You know how many stupid weapons are in this game? Like 600 or 700 or it's a crazy number of weapons that are in this game, and a bunch of them are just carbon copies of each other. Mm-hmm. And so don't lose sleep over the thing you didn't get or don't have. Just play the game. And just enjoy yourself. Run activities that you enjoy doing. Find the thing that gives you the most pleasure and do it. And I guarantee that as you keep going, you'll get better. You'll get better. You'll get more powerful. You'll get stronger. You'll get your gunplay will get better just from experience. Everything will line out. And pretty soon you'll find yourself gaming at a better level where that challenging content that you were banging your head against a month or two ago is not as hard as it was.
Next one. I asked them both, if they had a small but talented team from Bungie to improve the new player experience, what direction would they go first?
So for this one, like when I recently started a new account just because there was like this weird there was this weird thing that was going on where I couldn't play Destiny on my main account, but I could play it on an alternate account if I logged in, and it was like an error. It was an error code message.
I heard about that. Right.
Yeah. So that happened probably about like a month or so back, and I started a new light campaign just for funsies. Man, they make that kind of like a mobile game when you're first starting out with like, hey, here's all this stuff, and it can be overwhelming. When it comes to like new players coming in, I feel like while the experience could use some work, I think like if you got some powers a little bit sooner without doing those kind of like side mission-y things, that would streamline it a little bit. Although I see what they're doing when they're explaining what those powers are.
Mm-hmm.
The problem has always been with like streamlining it and making it so it's easier to onboard and people kind of know what's going on. I feel like that opening cutscene that's like 5 minutes long that goes over like the entire history of Destiny. If somebody sits through that, that's great. But I don't know how many people do when they first start the game. I think it's fine. I watched it when I wasn't a new light, and I was like, this is kind of cool. This explains a lot of things. Or gives like a brief introduction to a lot of the themes and the characters that you find in the game.
Right, and they try to move you around to play Crucible. They try to show you, I could see what they're doing as well. They're trying to show you the ropes. They're trying to show you what's out there on that big map.
I guess what I would do, like, for anything, like, because the journey was recently introduced in the past year, if there was one thing that I would do, it would be to make sure that Crucible and Gambit were fixtures throughout their journey instead of just like speed bumps that you have to hit in order to get to rank 6, and then that's when you start hitting the mountain to climb. I would probably make it so that you have to become a little bit more familiar on that journey with other game modes, at least to put enough time to figure out whether you like it or not. With returning players, the only thing that I can think of is I wish that they did a better job of telling you what was in each expansion for returning players, because that's a question that I get a lot. Like, hey, I haven't played since Beyond Light. What have I missed out on? What do I need in order to catch up? Or, hey, this raid looks super cool. What expansion is it from? And it's like, well, yeah, this one's from Lightfall, and it just came out. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what do I need to get into it? Like, there needs to be a better explainer for returning players on what is included with each DLC, what activities, so that people don't come in feeling kind of lost or blindsided with bills that they need to pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just blindsided by bills that they need to pay in order to play like a dungeon for like an hour with somebody.
I will say this, and Hazel and I have talked about this on the other podcast, and it's about this new journey system. It kind of is like a new player experience because they make you do things that it's kind of like a checklist. At least it gives order to the chaos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There could be a few more things to kind of like make it closer to like being a more well-rounded Guardian, because right now it is strictly PvE focused, right. And even in the later ranks, you see that there's nothing for Crucible or Gambit. I've
said it in the show, and Hazel rolls his eyes. So I'm like, "Where's the Crucible stuff?" And I've had people on my YouTube channel, comment like, "I play Crucible, so I'll stay at 6 forever, I guess." There are some people who won't engage with that system at all, and that fair, like. Play what you want to play. Yep. I've got a buddy who's not doing it strictly because he doesn't agree with the system, like with how it's embedded. Right. So
I would have to come at it from my own perspective and how I came into the game and what I would have liked to have had when I came into the game. For me, I think the new light experience, the first missions that you run, I think they could do a much better job explaining everything and setting you up for success in that whole intro to the game, right? Because they sort of just throw you into the deep end of the pool. They give you some missions to run, and then they dump you out at the tower, and they go, here you go. And you're like, okay, now what? I think there should be more tutorials. There should be more explanation. There should be more walkthroughs. There should be more guides. There should be, and I think maybe to some degree they've tried to do this with the Guardian ranks and how the Guardian ranks are set up for new players, and it walks you through certain things you should do. That wasn't there when I started. Those are new from when I started. But, I think about other games where, I enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima a lot. And when I played Ghost of Tsushima, there wasn't anything in the game that you had to do that the game didn't take you slowly through it and explain how to do it first, and then turned you loose and let you do it. With Destiny, it doesn't feel like there's any of that. It doesn't feel like it's just saying, here you are at the tower. You can go run some Crucible if you want to. You can go run some Vanguard strikes if you want to. You can go play Gambit if you want to. Or you can, go, chase bounties. But you're kind of scratching your head. You don't really know where you should go or what you should do. So I think a more guided walkthrough, I think, would be really, really, really helpful for the game. I think that for the new player, because when he first comes into the game, you are really, really lost. And I'm fortunate that I had people I knew that had been playing the game a long time that could take me by the hand and say, okay, here's what you should focus on. But I watched a lot of content videos from YouTube, but you really shouldn't have to, really. The game should want to walk you through it and show you how to do those things. And I don't think it does a good job. I mean, so much so that when you start playing the past expansions, you can play them out of order and there's nothing to keep you from doing that. But then the story's all messed up. It's a little weird when you think about it. I don't know another game in the world that you can do that with. So I think they could do a whole much better job of walking you through the intro of the game and setting you up for the progression of the story and how it goes and getting you on the right foot.
I then asked them, as we're going into the final shape campaign, the final light and dark part, or saga, of Destiny 2, is it too late for the new Guardian to jump into this late stage of the game?
When it comes to the light and dark saga coming to a close, we know that they're going to be continuing the franchise.
Yes.
It also, it makes sense business-wise for them not to discontinue it
Sure.
and put all their eggs in the marathon basket when that comes around.
Absolutely.
On August 22nd, we're going to find out more about what their plans are, probably for the final shape and a little bit beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
So my money is on Destiny continuing for at least a couple more years. So if you're looking to get into Destiny right now, and you're looking to start getting into things, I would see if you could find Lightfall on sale or something. If you can find a deal on it and get the one that gives you not only the DLC but the seasons
Mm-hmm.
and the pass, if you can find that for cheaper than I think $98 or something like that right now.
$100, yeah.
Yeah, if you can find that cheaper, dive in on that, because a lot of people are playing that material. Now, once you're through at least the initial DLC campaign, I would then go, if you're wanting more, I would then go and do Witch Queen. I think Witch Queen is probably hands down the best campaign they've done.
That's a great story. Yeah, that's a great story.
Outside of that, the pack that has the other DLCs involved, I that's where I would go to. But that is coming from a place of somebody who is privileged and is a content creator and I followed this for years, and so that sometimes I forget that things aren't attached to certain DLC
Right.
as I'm playing it, because I'm like, oh, I picked that up 3 years ago.
Yeah, we take it so for granted, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but as I said earlier, you need maybe some hand-holding. You need somebody that maybe has played, and that's what makes, I think, the Guardian Downcast community so strong, is that we are going to bring in new players and we're going to say, hey, I know you've never run a dungeon before. Let us help you with that. Hey, I know you've never been on a raid. Let us show you how this works. And I think that makes it accessible to people that, that who normally wouldn't know what any of that was or how to do it or how to go about it. I think there's a lot of room for people to come in, but you're going to have to be willing to play a lot of catch up. Now, the closer we get to the end, the harder it gets, right? Because why would you want to come in as a new player 2/3 of the way in through the next year, right? If it's 2024 and we're well into final shape and we're almost to the end of it, who would want to start Destiny at that point? I don't know. Unless Bungie goes back and makes all of the past content available that you could replay. And we're talking about Red War. We're talking about all that stuff that's gone now. That would be a reason for me to want to come back in and redo that stuff if I didn't have access to it previously. Yeah. That would be fantastic. But if it's just a matter of, story, then, and especially if we've got a new version of Destiny coming, like if they're, I don't know what you want to call it, Destiny 3 or just the next chapter of Destiny 2 or whatever it is, then depending on how that shakes out, it would affect whether or not new people want to play now or just wait for the next thing.
So what do you think? Is there something they missed? And do you have any ideas that might help the game? Or maybe share your frustrations as a new light player that Bungie maybe needs to work on? Hey, let me know in the comments below. And if you're ready to jump into Destiny 2, check out these helpful guides I made just for you. Yeah, you. Hey, thanks for watching. And later, Guardian.